Welcome back again to Joe Stunner Boxing. How are you doing? Thanks for joining me again. Yeah, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Please subscribe or like the video or dislike the video, because in life we have options. But whatever you decide to do, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me. Let's talk about some heavyweights, because I made a video for the upcoming New Year's Day main event, Charles Martin against Luis Ortiz, and pay-per-view event. No, it isn't, but some people will pay for it. It'd be interesting to see how many people do. I'm saying 50,000 tops, but I could be wrong. But anyway, I did a video for that main event, but the rest of that PBC card, they're also heavyweights. It's a heavyweight card. I think the top 4 fights are all heavyweights. There may be some lighter weight fighters on the prelims or whatever, but I thought I'd go through the rest of the matchups, and just sort of, make a few comments about them. So apart from Ortiz Martin, the most interesting, well, probably the most interesting fight of the whole card, I'd say, would be Frank Sanchez against Carlos Negron. Not because Negron has, I think, got much of a chance against Sanchez, but because I'm interested in Frank Sanchez and seeing how far he can progress. I made a criticism, in fact, I've made criticisms in the past on more than one video regarding the inactivity of PBC fighters, but with Frank Sanchez, you can't level that accusation, because he had 2 fights in 2021. This will be 1st of January, 22. So we're talking 3 fights in the space, within a calendar year, within a year, and that's decent progression, I think. So his 2 fights in 2020 were Neji Aguilera, technical decision in 6 rounds. Aguilera is one of those, gatekeeper types, borderline journeyman type. But the most interesting, by far the most interesting win on Sanchez's entire record is the recent, I think it was early October, the recent win over Efe Ajagba. Ajagba had been a PBC heavyweight, and then he'd moved to top rank. So, of course, that fight was made. He's no longer part of the PBC family, shall we say. So they stuck him in, or Sanchez took him on and beat him handily over 10 rounds and floored him in the process. And Ajagba prior to that had looked quite robotic, but was a big lump, powerful guy, hit hard, had scored a couple of picturesque knockouts over lesser opposition. Couldn't do a thing with Sanchez. Sanchez is an excellent boxer. He's Cuban. As always, with these top-level Cuban guys, they box beautifully. Lots of jabs, lots of variation of punches, controls the distance well. Ajagba couldn't get near him. And in fact, Sanchez put so much he put so many questions into Ajagba's mind that Ajagba wasn't throwing any punches, because he was always wondering what the other guy was doing. He didn't know when to throw punches. He didn't know which punches to throw. He was just totally outboxed, totally bewildered. Now, Carlos Negron, who Sanchez faces on January the 1st, is a different proposition, because this is a guy who does hit hard. He's got 25 wins against lower level opposition. I think it's 20 knockouts. But his 3 defeats have all come by stoppage. And that does not bode well for someone like Frank Sanchez. Sanchez has got 13 wins out of 19? 13 knockouts out of 19 wins. And Negron is on a five-fight winning streak against lower level opposition. But prior to that, he was knocked out in a round by Brian Howard. That does not bode well. And Dominic Brazil stopped him in 9. And he also had a stoppage defeat early on in his career against a journeyman. So punch resistance wise, things don't look good for Negron, and I can see Sanchez opening him up, just boxing his head off, and getting rid of him in 4 or 5 rounds. I don't think Negron has got the skills or certainly not the punch resistance to compete with Sanchez. So there's that fight. And then there's Jonathan Rice against Michael Coffie 2. Well, the first fight was a bit of a shocker because Coffie was being groomed as the star, and it didn't work out that way. Because Jonathan Rice, a good quality gatekeeper, looking to, I mean, he's 34 now, Jonathan Rice, so you couldn't call him a prospect. You couldn't say, he's looking to pick up good paydays against good men. And he beat Michael Coffie on a 5th round KO, and the manner of the defeat didn't look good for Coffie. It's not like he was battered with one punch. He was kind of outworked, outgutted, and sort of appeared to quit a little bit. There was definitely shades of I've had enough of this from Michael Coffie. They've put him straight back in with Jonathan Rice. Rice has a 14-6-1 record, which does not tell the whole story of his ability. He's actually a pretty good fighter. And he's battle hardened, which Coffie certainly isn't. But it seems to be make or break. PBC's attitude is make or break for Coffie. We'll put him back in, see how he gets on with Rice, see if he can undo the wrong. I'm not sure he can. My prediction would be for Rice to sort of outgut him again. It's over 10 rounds. Might take a little longer this time. But I think Rice gets him in about 8 rounds. 7 or 8 rounds. I just didn't like what I saw mentally in that fight, that first fight from Coffie. Didn't look to me. He looked like a front runner. Like if everything's going his way, he looks the part. Physically looks the part. Has reasonable skills. Nothing special, but okay. But against Rice, that might not be enough. And he certainly can't impose his will on Rice now. Rice knows Rice has beaten him, so he knows what he can do. I see Rice stopping Coffie in the rematch in about 7 or 8 rounds. That would be my uneducated guess. And another heavyweight fight, the much recycled Gerald Washington against Ali Erin Demirezen. Is that his name? Demirezen. I've never heard of this guy. Oh, I know all about Gerald Washington. Gerald Washington, I mean, how many more times are they going to recycle the guy? He gets stopped by everyone. Although he does hold a knockout over Robert Helenius, which I find absolutely shocking. Bearing in mind what Helenius did to Kalnaki twice in a row. But yeah, Washington, if he's chinned, if he's hit on the jaw, he won't just physically go over. He seems to sort of mentally capitulate as well. He's a 6'6", big lump. Just a really big guy, but seems way too gentle-minded to really cause any great tear up any real trees. And if you look at his recent record, I mean, I think he's lost 3 out of the last 6, and they've all been by knockout. Gerald Miller, everyone's favourite walk-in pharmacy. He stopped him in 8, or Washington retired. I think before that, Wilder knocked him out in 5. That was his first defeat. Kalnaki knocked him out in 2. That's a bad result for Washington. Then he had the Helenius win, which put him back on track. And then Charles Martin, who shares the headline act in this little PBC heavyweight orgy, he stopped Washington in 6. So I don't know. I mean, Washington, he's one of those that you look at him and you think, well, this guy should have some ability. But I don't think his heart's there. His heart's really in it. I think he's a big guy who's picking up paychecks because he's a big guy and because he's in the PBC stable and he can get fights. Now his opponent, Ali Erin Demirezen, is that his name? Demirezen. I've probably mispronounced it. Sorry. You correct me. I don't know. But this guy, I don't know anything about him. He's 14-1 with 11 knockouts, which suggests he can wallop a bit. And his only defeat came to F.A. Ajagba. I must have seen that fight, but I can't remember watching it. It was over 10 rounds. He lost a unanimous decision wide. I think it was quite wide. But I don't remember seeing that fight. So it must have been boring. But he's come back with a few wins, including a unanimous decision over 6 rounds against Kamil Sokolovsky. That was interesting. It's an interesting matchup. Suddenly he finds himself in with Gerald Washington. So I'm going to go with an upset win here, even though I don't know a great deal about Mr. Demirezen, or whatever his name is. Demirezen. I'm going to go with... Would it be an upset? I think Demirezen wins by knockout in... This is a 10-round fight, so I'm going to say a knockout in 8 rounds. 6 to 8. 6, middle rounds knockout. I'll go with 6 to 8, yeah. So those are my picks. Demirezen to stop Washington. Rice to knock out Coffie again in the rematch. And Sanchez to knock out Negron. Now, you can argue that these are not great matchups, but let's say that we have 4 heavyweight knockouts. You can't really argue with that, can you? And in fairness, although I've criticised PBC with good cause a lot of the time, New Year's Day, 4 heavyweight fights on 1 card. It's pay-per-view, which don't even get me started on pay-per-view. If you watch my videos before, you know my views on pay-per-view. I'm going to be streaming it. I ain't getting a penny out of me. But, yeah, 4, you can't argue with that. 4 heavyweight bouts, potentially 4 knockouts on New Year's Day boxing. Okay, PBC, I'll live with that. Pay-per-view aside. And the fact that they're bringing on Sanchez, they're keeping Sanchez busy. PBC fighters, a lot of them don't fight much at all, but they're really pushing Sanchez. And not without a good cause, because I think he's got some real good skills there. Could be a dark horse of the division. Maybe not a dark horse, because a lot of people rate him very highly already. But so yeah, what do you think? What do you think about these fights coming up? You're going to watch this fight? Are you going to pay for it? I mean, don't worry, I won't take the piss out of you. If it's your money, you want to pay for it, pay for it. I'll be streaming it. But what do you think about these fights? What do you think about the card? Who do you think will win? Will they win by points? Will they win by knockout? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for your time, as always. Thank you for subscribing. If you're new and you could subscribe, that'd be great. Like the video. Dislike the video if you didn't like it, but like it. And thanks for your time, as always. Take care of yourselves, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.